Chapter 5, Lone Wolves. Okay, I'm just going to preface this by saying we're about halfway through the route. That date went swimmingly well, aside from the fight. And I feel like enough werewolves know about Nora now to start using her as blackmail against Danny. And I'm fully expecting him to just be like, I don't know who you are, Nora. Stay away from me if you don't want to die. And she'd be like, but I thought we had like a connection and things. And we're going to have to bully the truth out of him. That's my expectations. I'm just like, things are going too well. This can't be good. This can't be right. I was in my grandmother's study, sitting on the leather sofa with a book open on my lap. A crocheted throw, one she made herself, was wrapped around me as I bent my head over the massive book. Though the book itself wasn't really massive, it's just that I was small, very young. I was watching myself, like seeing a memory through an old television, swinging my feet and humming the words to some song I'd long since forgotten. The younger version of me looked up suddenly and our eyes met. Somehow the sight of my younger self seemed so foreign, strange, unfamiliar and alien, as if I was looking at a stranger rather than myself. She spoke to me, softly, enunciating every word clearly.
One may lead a horse to water, 20 cannot make him drink. Though the goblins cuffed and caught her, coaxed and fought her, bullied and besought her, scratched her, pinched her black as ink, kicked and knocked her, mauled and mocked her, Lizzie uttered not a word, would not open lip from lip lest they should cram a mouthful in.
What a good sister.
What a good sister? What does that mean? I jolted awake as that thought flitted through my head, and I was left staring up at my ceiling, wondering why an uncomfortable feeling of nostalgia and dread was settling in the pit of my stomach. I rolled over, glaring at my clock. 15 minutes before the alarm. 15 precious minutes. I pulled the pillow over my head and burrowed deeper in the blankets as the poem from my dream rolled around in my head. I remembered it now. I'd read it for the first time in one of my grandmother's books a long time ago. It was the same one that Spriggan had been quoting. Two sisters, one of whom gets mixed up with fairies, and the other one that comes to her rescue. I wasn't sure why the thought of it was leaving me feeling so uneasy. Well, that sounds similar and familiar. I tried to shrug the feeling off as I pulled the blanket closer. Maybe it was just because I knew if I had to rely on Spencer to come to my rescue, I was going to be in big trouble. Sure. By the time I got down to the kitchen, Spencer was already seated at the table having breakfast. I paused on the bottom step to watch him. It was kind of weird seeing him sitting calmly at the table instead of hunting around the house for some inevitably missing object like a madman. I guess the brownie appeasement is working.
Good morning, honey.
Meh. Morning. She laughed quietly as I went to get my coffee.
The keys didn't go missing this morning.
That's great. Not that I'm going to get a thanks for that.
To be honest, I was starting to worry a little.
She gave me a sheepish smile.
I mean, with all the pranks happening, I was starting to seriously consider if the house was haunted. Your dad kept telling me it was my imagination, but I swear I would hear laughter sometimes. Even footsteps at night.
My eyes went slightly wide at that. Shoot! Was that me she'd been hearing? Or the stupid brownie? Either way, not good.
Well, maybe your dad was right. In any case, it's the first morning it's been this quiet in a while. It's nice.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how everything suddenly just stopped. Almost as if the culprit finally found something better to do.
I rolled my eyes. Here we go. would be ashamed if they changed their mind. Okay, last one's confrontational. Second one's implying that he did it, which none of that's true. So I'm just not arguing with you, brother. So don't come kill me in the night. Okay? Ugh, I'm so not doing this today. How about you try not to ruin everyone's morning?
How can I ruin it by making an observation?
Oh, come on! You always do this. You always make those snide little remarks and play innocent. I like that she said, I'm not doing this, and then immediately got involved in an argument.
I'm not the only one who's good at playing innocent.
My hands tightened on the mug.
Okay, come on, you two. There's no reason to fight this morning. We were just talking about how nice and quiet it is.
Tell him! Why do I always have to bear equal blame when he's the one picking the fights?
Nora.
No! I'm tired of this. I haven't done anything, but every time I cut myself off when I saw the look on her face, biting the inside of my cheek hard. It really wasn't worth fighting with her over it. With a frustrated sigh, I set my mug down. I'm going to wait for Allie.
You seriously need to stop taking the bait every time he provokes you.
I know that. It's just difficult. I'm so tired of it. And it's gotten worse since moving back. I know that even if he wasn't already suspicious of me, it's not unreasonable for him to think I was responsible for the pranks. I know that my acting like I don't know what's going on is what's unfair. But I do not have the patience to deal with him on top of everything else.
I promise, as soon as the holiday is over, I'll help you deal with him. The sooner we get him sorted, the better off you'll both be.
Is what you're doing really that important? I mean, the intern work. Not that I expect you to drop everything and deal with my stupid drama. Just, you talk about work a lot.
Well, it does get a little hectic during any magic overflow period like Samhain. With all the drifters sweeping into town, the agency really needs the extra manpower to keep things from going nutty.
Drifters? Those creepy things lurking in town?
Yeah. The creepy things lurking in town. And the woods. And somewhat at the school.
Yeah, Danny and I ran into one. Well, not literally. It was more like it kind of ran into me. And pulled out some of my hair.
What? When? On your date? You didn't tell me that.
Well, I sort of forgot about it, actually. It was a kind of crazy weekend.
Still, that's the kind of thing you need to tell me.
Well, it wasn't a big deal. It just lurked, pulled my hair, then ran off.
Yeah, but drifters are weird. Sometimes they attach themselves to people or follow them around.
Alright, now it's got my hair. Great. I'm sure it'll be fine. No. Ah, there we go. Drifters are creatures that float into Pine Hollow on the currents when they swell during certain times of year. Many of them get stuck here due to the layout of the town and currents. They're not evil necessarily, but they are strange and really have no sense of human ethics or morality, so they just sort of do what they do. In that sense, they can be dangerous for mortals because they don't understand simple concepts like, hey, maybe don't eat that person just because you're hungry, or whatever. Noted.
It's better to just keep your distance.
I did try to keep my distance. It stalked me.
I can't believe neither of you said anything. You tell me right away if you see it again.
Okay. But Danny didn't seem to think it was that big a deal either, and he was right there when it happened. Besides, if I see it again, I can just use your spell thingy on it.
The fact that you're calling it a spell thingy doesn't give me the greatest confidence in your casting ability.
Ha ha.
You need to just stay out of sight and focus on the research you've been doing until the holiday is over.
Not that I'd gotten much in the way of research done lately. Yeah, well, I'm sick of my research. I was thinking of taking a break from it.
Haven't found anything yet?
Nope. Nothing of use, anyway. I gave her a slightly hopeful sidelong look. I'd rather be helping you guys or something than stuck in the club room scouring books until I'm ready to pull my hair out.
Our work isn't really any less tedious.
Maybe, but it would get my mind off everything else, that's for sure.
I mean, I can ask Velos, but I'm not sure he'll go for it if you've already become an unwilling hair donor to a drifter.
Hey, I can help identify it if it pops up again. Then you guys can tackle it and take it for questioning or whatever you do to them.
We don't do much of anything to them besides make note of their activity.
So why is it a big deal if I help you do that then? You could at least ask him for me. I mean, it would only be until Samhain is over anyway. Then I'd hit the books again. I promise. I tried my best sad puppy eyes at her.
I'll think about it.
Yay! She rolled her eyes.
Just don't get your hopes up. I'm not sure Velos will go for it if he knows you've already attracted the attention of a drifter.
Can't hurt to ask.
Yeah, you've never seen that look he gives you when he thinks you've said something stupid.
I just laughed at that. I hadn't seen that specific look, but I could imagine. Still, I hadn't expected her to go for that. It had been kind of a spur-of-the-moment suggestion, but now I was definitely looking forward to the possibility. Assuming she could convince Velos, of course. Literature was becoming one of my favorite parts of the day. It managed to hit this pleasant sweet spot between being totally normal and just a little weird. Since there were so many club members in it, I couldn't exactly spend it forgetting about the paranormal, but I got to see everyone behaving like normal students, which, honestly, was kind of cathartic. It helped me convince myself that everything I was going through was normal, in its own way. And listening to Mark and Elliot struggle to read one of Shakespeare's romantic comedies together would have been funny on its own. But it was so much more entertaining every time I thought about them both being vampires. Intimidating creatures of the night! Bloodsuckers! Apex predators that could devour a grown human! Great! More! All of the quotes, please.
Fair Beatrice, I thank you for your pains.
I snickered softly.
I took no more pains for those thanks than you take pains to thank me. If it had been painful, I would not have come.
I had no idea how Mark ended up playing the female lead this time, but that made it so much more entertaining somehow. Not to mention the way he deadpanned every single line. Yes. Danny leaned across his desk to me, giving me the usual smile.
I wonder how painful it was to choke that line out just now.
I laughed, resting my head on my hand. I can't decide if it's painful or amusing to listen to them. I shot him a grin. He just laughed.
Still, I like this play better than the last one.
A Midsummer Night's Dream? I don't disagree. It was never a favorite. Besides, I kinda can't help but roll my eyes a little now. Seems like he was pretty far off in his interpretation of fairies. Real fairies are nothing like that. The only thing Shakespeare got right was the part where they were troublemakers. Look at all the trouble that stupid brownie was causing with its antics. Not to mention the time they... There was sharp pain in my temple as that thought vanished before it could even form. The time they... What? There was something about fairies causing trouble. A thought or a memory. But it was gone now. I gripped my forehead, trying to rub the pain away.
Nora? Are you okay?
I looked up at him, still half covering my face with one hand. I think so. Just a sudden headache. Danny's eyes suddenly went wide.
Nora. Keep your face covered.
What? Without answering, he stood up, dragging me to my feet as well.
Just hold on. I'll take you to the nurse.
What are you... Danny pushed my head down as he wrapped an arm around me and shielded me from the view of the rest of the class. Danny? I hissed his name, but he herded me to the door, looking over his shoulder.
She's not feeling well, Mrs. Roberts. I need to take her to the nurse.
He didn't wait for an answer as he pushed me into the hall and away from the class. Behind us, I could hear the murmurs from everyone else. I was worried her hair was going to go white, but what happened to her face? Danny, what's going on?
We need to get you to the club room for now. Come on.
Tell me, please. Stop it! I yanked my arm away from him. Stop doing this. Just tell me what's happening instead of dragging me off without a word.
I wasn't trying to hide it. I just think we need to get out of sight. Your glamour spell is slipping again. It's just the eyes for now. But if the hair changes, others will notice.
What? My eyes? I knew it. That had to be the only reason he'd freak out like that. But that meant it had slipped in front of everyone.
Nora,
If you tell me to calm down, so help me, I am going to smack you as hard as I can. He gave me a pained look. I'm not going to panic, but I can't just be calm about this because everyone thinks I should be. First my hair, now my eyes? What's next? Sparkly wings and horns? It's getting worse. How can I function with this happening?
The same way Ewan does. The same way I do.
Ewan's a cranky hermit that pretty much always skips class. And he doesn't have to hide his fairiness from his family.
Ugh.
Danny grimaced.
You're right. That probably wasn't a good example.
He reached over to me and tucked my hair away from my face.
The point I was trying to make is that I think you're resourceful and smart. I don't know how to handle this kind of thing, but I'm confident you'll find a way to deal with it at home.
He pulled me into a gentle hug. Aww.
You're not alone in this, okay? Whatever happens, we'll get through it. We'll deal with it when it happens. I know that's hard to accept. I know you want a plan. But sometimes you just have to take it a day at a time. I might not be the best example either, but at least trust me on this one, okay?
He leaned over and pressed a gentle kiss to my forehead.
I'm sure it'll be okay.
I reached up and caught his hand, smiling slightly. Thanks. I took a deep breath. Please tell me my stupid face is normal again.
Normal, yes. Stupid, no.
Very funny.
Dan! Ugh.
We both started at the sound of Derek's voice. Whoa! He had one arm slung around Sean and was helping him toward us. Oh, whoa! I just noticed Sean! My beautiful boy, what happened to you? And Sean looked like hell. He really did. He had clearly gotten into some sort of fight. Given the way he was leaning on Derek, I assumed it wasn't with him. Danny looked concerned as well as Derek helped Sean to sit on the steps.
What on earth happened? You can tell just by looking.
Danny helped Sean to the bottom step. I loitered nearby, unsure what to do. Derek shot me one sidelong look, but otherwise ignored me.
Who did this? Never saw his face. Some jerk caught me in town. This is why the two of you are supposed to be in school, to help keep this kind of thing from happening. Can't be in school all the time, Dan. You can at least be here when class is in session. Why were you in town in the first place? Because I hate this place, that's why. You may hate it, but you're safe here. We'd be safe out there too if you would just help us.
Danny shot a look my way, looking decidedly like he didn't want to talk about it with me there.
Just because the three of us stick together doesn't mean we're suddenly going to be shielded from this kind of stuff. I keep my head down. That's why I'm not getting beat up on the streets. The two of you should do the same. Come on, man. You belong with us. What's it going to take for you to see that? This isn't about clans or... That's exactly what it's about. You think they went after me instead of Derek for no reason?
He rubbed a hand across his nose, leaving a smear of red on his hand.
If we were in a clan, they wouldn't mess with either of us like this. If you didn't pick fights with them, they wouldn't mess with you. Not everyone has the agency behind them to scare others off, Dan. You really think you're protected because you keep your head down? Everyone knows they're going to have that four-eyed wizard in the library on them if they touch you.
Sean stood angrily, limping away.
I don't know why I even try. This is just the start. No one gives a damn anyway. I'll be the next one to vanish, and no one is going to care.
Vanish?
Look, we haven't found out who's responsible for the missing Vares yet, but we're going to. You know the agency doesn't give a damn about a few lone werewolves going missing.
Loners? Someone was doing that? And they were... going missing? Does that mean they were missing, or were they dead? That was horrifying. Sean stopped alongside me and glared my way.
The agency can only shield him for so long. Anyone who cares about him is going to encourage him to do the smart thing. People like us don't do well on their own.
I bit my lip. Poor Danny, stuck in this annoying tug-of-war between these guys and everyone else. He isn't on his own. He has the rest of us. You could too. I mean, if you... He let out a harsh, barking laugh.
Nice try. But none of those people care about us.
He moved past me and Derek hurried to catch up. Danny was standing by the stairs looking like he wasn't sure what to do. I don't want to let them just go. They're gonna get in trouble. He cares about them. It's just like he doesn't want to get involved in all the dang clan nonsense. It's difficult to care about someone who won't let you do it.
No offense, Red, but you've been in this for 2 weeks. Don't act like you have any idea what really goes on. If you think anyone gives a shit about us, you're dead wrong.
Derek looked back over his shoulder at me.
We're not on our own because we want to be. That's why we need Dan's help. He's the only one we can rely on. Or he should be. And even he doesn't give a shit.
He stormed away, limping down the hall. Derek shot me an apologetic look before he followed. Aw, Derek.
Sorry, Red. It's just not as easy as you think.
Danny sighed and came to stand next to me.
Thanks for trying.
Yeah, no problem, man. I mean, yeah, I've been here 2 weeks, but I care about you guys. I'm sorry. Wish there was more I could do for you. I just wish they didn't have to feel like no one cares.
You're not going to follow them, Dan? Mozzie? Where'd you come from? I thought you guys might need your books and stuff.
He held up both our book bags.
Even if I go after them, they won't listen. Well, that's true. But still. I know.
He started off down the hall after them.
Sorry, Nora. Can you go to the club with Mozzie and wait until class is over?
Yeah. And good luck.
Thanks.
He left the two of us there. Sean and Derek seemed to be heading for the cafeteria, and Dan was headed that way as well. I thought you didn't even like those two.
Well, I don't like the pressure they put on Danny, but I can understand that feeling of isolation. I can understand wanting to cling on to someone who seems to have it together. Sometimes I feel like I'm just clinging on to Danny for the same reason. And if I wasn't around, maybe he wouldn't be so quick to reject the idea of, you know.
No offense, but I don't think you're the only reason he rejects the idea of starting some weird official clan with them. I don't even understand why it has to be him anyway. Why are all the werewolves in the area so fixated on him?
Well, I mean, he's got that whole charisma thing going on. Natural leader and all that. Even when he's dealing with his own stuff, he can be such a source of strength for others. I think that's a pretty impressive gift. He just never seems to falter, you know? I think that's why people are drawn to him. He's just a really level-headed and good guy. Even me. I mean, when I first moved here, I was having an identity crisis after finding out I was a vampire. I wasn't getting along with my stepfamily. I was just lost. I met Danny, and he really helped me through that, even though he was also going through a lot of the same thing. I don't want to cling on to him like those two, but I don't want Danny pushed into anything he's not interested in either. And I don't want anything bad to happen to those guys either. I mean, it's tough. I don't like seeing a classmate all beat up, no matter what.
I agree.
Come on. We should head up before someone finds us.
I glanced down the hall one more time as we headed up, hoping everything would somehow work out.
Anyway, what happened with you that made Dan drag you out like that?
Oh, you know, the glamour thing again.
Aw, makes sense.
You know, it's weird, but I keep having this feeling like trying to remember something. Like a memory that I just can't quite recall. I don't know how it's tied into the glamour magic, but it happened that day at lunch, too.
Feels like everyone has their problems.
No kidding. If this glamour thing keeps up, I'm going to have to start wearing a paper bag on my head just to be safe.
That would definitely be interesting to see, but I hope it doesn't come to that.
Me too. I can only imagine what kind of crazy theories Spencer would come up with for it. He laughed as we went up to hide in the club until the bell rang. Well, another long and stupid day under my belt. After the incident in literature, how was I supposed to focus for the rest of the day? Between paranoia about the stupid glamour spell slipping again and worrying about Danny, my day was a bit of a blur. It hadn't been a total wash. Lunch in the courtyard had yielded an interesting conversation with Ewan about glamour. Do tell. I shut my locker door and reached into my book bag for my journal. I flipped it open to the new section on glamour. I ran my hand down the swirling symbols on the page to find the new parts. Ewan didn't know much about accidental use of glamour specifically, but I had learned about accidental use of magic in general, and glamour in general. Though fairies could actively maintain glamour spells, there were also temporary spells, those that wore off after a while. A lot of times that had to do with a fairy trying to accomplish a specific purpose, usually tricking a human, of course, because fairies were jerks. I'd read about some of that in books, too. Incidents of fairies using glamour to disguise leaves as gold, and the glamour would wear off once the gold had already been given as payment. Or, even more infamously, when they would use glamour to disguise one of their own as a kidnapped baby. That went back to the changeling thing, though. Yes? At any rate, over time, the glamour would wear off, and the baby's appearance would become more and more distorted as it grew. Okay. Now we can look at our actual journal. No. There we go. Glamour is a magic unique to fairies. It's an illusion magic that affects all the senses, meaning that a glamoured object is indistinguishable from whatever it's glamoured to look like. Fairies use glamour for all sorts of things, from changing their own looks to changing the looks of other objects. One reason you should never eat food offered by fairies is that sometimes it's actually poisonous mushrooms being made to look like real food. Because fairies are jerks, I guess. There was another pain in my temple, and I closed the journal as I rubbed my forehead. The stress of all this was definitely not doing much for my head. Anyway, Ewan also used glamour, usually when his head fell off in front of others. It was how he stopped it from being too noticeable, or, less dramatically, to hide his pointy ears. So, does his head just fall off at random intervals? And he's like, gosh darn it. Glamour. I still noticed the points, but he said that fairies can usually see through weak glamour like his. Stronger glamour spells might be noticed by other fairies, but they couldn't necessarily see through them. At any rate, that got us in a long discussion about how students managed to not question other physical quirks like Elliot's eyes, Mark's ears, and such. It had to do with the school itself being enchanted in a way that made those things less noticeable to others or something. But it only worked on small things, so if something crazy happened, like Danny morphing into a wolf mid-chemistry lesson, that would require some memory altering and containment. I didn't really learn anything that specifically helped me, but it was an interesting conversation anyway. And best of all, Allie told me Vilas wanted to chat with me after school about the whole helping out thing. I didn't know that it meant he'd say yes, but I was hoping so. The final bell was ringing soon, so I decided to stop by the cafeteria before heading up to the library to grab something to drink. I slipped the journal back in my backpack and zipped it up as I headed that way. I heard the angry voices before I opened the door and almost turned away, but I realized with a sinking stomach that I recognized the people arguing in the empty cafeteria. Oh. Elliot? And Sean and Derek. After this morning? Well, Sean's looking a lot better. I bit my lip and hesitated to go in. It sounded pretty intense. That was probably why none of them noticed me when I did quietly slip inside. Sean and Derek had to have that stupid werewolf hearing, but distracted as they were, I was able to loiter by the door without being noticed.
You need to back off.
He grabbed Elliot and slammed him against the vending machine. It scraped backwards, the back corner smashing into the wall as he pinned Elliot there. Jeez. And Elliot was even the one who told Danny to go after them. I just noticed Sean's doing the eye thing.
I'm just trying to help. Well, it looks like the opposite.
Ahem. I cleared my throat softly before he threw that punch. The three of them looked my way, visibly startled at the interruption. I didn't exactly expect to radiate intimidation, so I wasn't shocked when Sean openly scoffed at my presence. But Elliot took advantage of the distraction and slipped out of Sean's grasp. Trying to steady my nerves, I dug in my backpack for the money to get a drink and casually walked up to the vending machine, which happened to place me directly between Derek and Elliot. You are all idiots.
Red, you need to learn when to back off too.
The same goes for you, I think. So here we are, a room full of overbearing people who need to back off. Maybe we should just start slamming each other around like savages. Because that'll solve the problem. I glared at the vending machine as it spat my money back out at me. It wasn't like they had any good drinks anyway, but I was trying to make a point here. And it wasn't helping. I wanted to dramatically have the thing go ka-clunk like the mic drop after I made my point and then just walk out like a badass. Help me out here, vending machine. I took my dollar back and looked at Sean, who was staring like I'd sprouted a second head. Can I borrow $1? I offered him the wrinkled dollar the machine wouldn't take, but he snatched it out of my hand and ripped it in half. Very mature.
Don't play dumb. I know what you're doing.
Well, I'm standing in front of the vending machine. It's not hard to work out. He slammed his hand against the front of the machine. The plastic cover warped inward, but didn't break. I jumped and looked over my shoulder, hoping there weren't any cranky lunch ladies lurking in the kitchen still.
Stay out of our business. You're just an outsider. You don't know anything about us.
I feel like we had this conversation already. I don't know why you people are so convinced no one else can understand you. Like your problems are so unique.
We have to stick together, whether you understand it or not.
I don't know why all of you are like this. What is with your community and insisting no one else can understand you? You can only rely on each other, and you just need to ignore everyone else. Are all of you this dumb, or have I just had really bad luck in the werewolves I've met?
Whoa, wait up. Who else have you even met?
Ugh, some lady named Rachel and her creepy bodyguard, or whatever he is. It doesn't matter. The point stands. The two of them were giving me a strange look. Come to think of it, Rachel indicated they knew each other. Neither Sean nor Derek spoke again. They retreated to the hall almost as soon as I'd mentioned Rachel, leaving Elliot and I alone in the cafeteria. As soon as they were gone, my legs turned to jello and I leaned heavily against the vending machine.
You okay?
Yeah, facing down angry werewolves, not fun.
Tell me about it. Still, anyone ever told you that you have a talent for diffusing things?
Not really. I actually tend to make them worse.
Well, I was worried there for a minute, I'll admit.
Man, what sparked that?
I just suggested maybe they should go down to the agency to ask for help. Apparently, not a good idea.
Ugh. With all their whining about how no one cares, they sure are quick to reject help from anyone but Danny. How can they expect people to not dislike werewolves when they're all standoffish brats?
Well, they have their reasons for not trusting others, I guess. Especially Sean. Anyway, can we agree to not tell Danny about this?
Why?
This kind of thing upsets him, and I just don't want him to blame himself. Those two have been trying to split Danny away from the rest of his friends since they arrived. Me in particular. And Danny always feels guilty when they clash with me. I mean, it's not his fault, but I guess he reckons I wouldn't have to deal with it if he wasn't my friend to begin with.
Yeah, that pretty well aligned with his behavior on our date thing as well.
Anyway, I've told him not to worry about it. Not like I can't take care of myself.
Even when it's 2 against 1?
I am a vampire, you know.
Yeah, but they're werewolves.
I know. I just...
But he'll probably hear it from them, and then he'll be upset at us because we weren't honest with him. Honesty, Elliot! Honesty! I could understand Elliot's perspective. I really could. I also didn't want to tell Danny something that was just going to upset him and make him feel bad. But I knew Danny preferred people to be upfront with him about things. I think Danny would want to know about this.
I know he would. But... can't you do me this one favor? Danny doesn't need to know everything.
He doesn't really seem fond of secrets.
He's not. It's just... I don't want him to feel bad about this. I don't want to upset him even more.
I reached over and gave his hand a squeeze. Look, I won't say anything this time. It's not my story to relay to him.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
No problem.
Man, I can't believe you just walked right between us like that and asked to borrow some money.
It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Mozzie, I've been looking all over for you.
We both jumped at the sound of Danny's voice, and I pulled my hand away from Elliot's. Oh no, I was worried about that. I'm like, oh man, we're getting some hand-holding in early before Elliot's route. And then Danny walked in, and barf.
Hey, sorry. Got distracted.
Danny studied us both seriously for a moment.
Sorry to bother you guys, but we have work. Sorry.
We'll come up now.
Well, Elliot and I need to head to the agency. And Velos was looking for you, Nora.
I was just about to go up. I'll see you two later. I shot Elliot another smile as I started out of the cafeteria. Oh no. Be careful today.
Thanks. We will.
I wondered just how long it would be before Elliot would totally crack and blab about what happened. I was giving it 10 minute stops. Maybe 15 if he was really determined. Well, it was probably for the best either way.